Welcome back to the Chicken Coop series. It's probably going to rain today, so I have to work smarter. Now, this week I'm going to be focusing on the framework for the pen/chicken run. And I've already got a load of timber delivered from Jewson's just over there. There's a lot of 2.4 metre lengths and 4.8 metre lengths. I had to get a delivery because I couldn't fit that in my van. That looks a very dirty cloud. Anyway, normally the process is I do some DIY and then Mr. TCD comes and does the paint. And that is not his favourite job. In fact, he hates it so much that he said this time he wants us to treat it all and paint it first, then we'll start building the frames. Now, because we're all stacked nicely, I may as well focus on treating the end grains first, then start dismantling them and brushing all over the sides. I want the preservative to soak in first, then I can tart it up with the paint. And now me and Mr. TCD had a rhythm. I'd finished staining them and he stacked them in one of the barns so we could give them the final colour once they were dry. And sometimes we had to use our phone torches so we could see what we were doing. Well, it looks like a nice rich colour, at least in the dark. You're earning your tea. So it's the afternoon after, and this is what the painted timber looks like. The majority is covered, but there's still the odd patch where we need to do touch-ups. But touch-ups, I think, are the easiest bits. And we're going to be chopping quite a few bits off anyway. But the plan is to have a panel here, another one here, which will be the door. The door needs to be wide enough for a wheelbarrow, so we need to do some maintenance. And another one, our big beast here, which is about 4.3 metres long. And I don't know if you can see on camera, but it's a very odd shape. Although there's an angle there, it's not perfectly square. This kicks out a little bit. So when I join them, I either bevel the ends or I just do straight cuts and put some packers in. And I think we're going to go for the packer option. Now, when I say packers, I don't mean plastic packers. I mean some shims, a piece of wood, strip of wood going all the way, top and bottom. That is thick enough to cover the front, but it's not too deep where it would be blocking getting it in. And then I could use that to fix them together. Now, in terms of the height, we've been discussing this for too many days. Now, originally I wanted to make all the panels to 1.8 metres high, which is up to there. Well, it was anyway last week, it is. But because there's a door going here, Mr. TCD is 6 foot. He said he'd struggle to get through. Now, if you didn't see the video last week, I strengthened the eaves here, and I know that there's structural timber behind here, so I can mount the roof on this side. And to make sure it's level all the way along, that took us to about there. Remember, because this roof is sloping backwards, I can't just put a piece of wood further up. That lower end dictates it. So I've got a level line all the way across here, and that tells me that the height of the panel needs to be up to that line, which is 187.5 centimetres. So when I do my panel here, I'm going to have to tailor it around this. And by having a frame all the way around, that gives us a surface area to mount our 16 gauge steel mesh. It was a nightmare trying to find the right square hole that we wanted in 16 gauge that was affordable. We've ended up going for this rectangular one here, and it's 2 metres tall and there's 30 metres per roll. It is flipping heavy. Anyway, first thing I want to do is, before we put some damp-proof course down, I want to mark where to cut the top and bottom of my frame. And I'm starting over here. And I'm going to go like that to mark where my cut needs to be. My next one is probably about there. So I need to add a filler piece here. So I'm lining up that pencil line on my base onto my wood. And that's where I need to cut. So I need another one exactly the same length for now. So I've got my top and bottom pieces cut, and I'm going to line them up because I need to put a centre spar. So that is my centres. The next thing I want to do is work out the height. Now I'm going to do 180. I'm just going to have to rest these on top just so I can get them all level. might be wondering why I've only gone for one spot in the middle. I did on SketchUp add 2, but by the time I added some on the other side, it just looked different. And this is the closest to make it look even if I put them on the biggest panel. Oh, I've got an itchy face right now. Oh, that's in my way. Right, so let's say it's there. Let's mark where that falls, which is there. It needs to be cut there. Okay, so I'm only cutting a little notch out, and this is how I'm doing it. So I've got my pencil line there, which I know is the outer bit of the fascia. So I'll be adding a piece of wood there, and then it'll be returning like that. It's going to be so tiny. And that means that this pencil line that I've done, I need to chop it a little bit lower, the thickness of this. So now I've got my new line. So I've measured the difference between the end there minus this and that, which has given me this piece to make it square. So I'm going to put that in now. I need to measure the distance over there. So I measured the width of it at the other end, drew on my tape measure. That's where it needs to be. Let's just push those together. That's it. And that is where I need to cut that. That should fit. Well, it better fit. Please fit. I'm happy with that. Very happy. God, it's tall. Now, one of my concerns was the brickwork over there is not plumb. If you have a look, we've got this frame level, but if you look over there, right over there, you can see a big gap against the wall. And the gap is larger at the bottom and then gets narrower at the top. So because it's over here more, I've now made a pencil line here, and that is my new measurement from here to there for the next panel. I'm going to take this off, put it to one side, build the next panel. And I know exactly the length of the top and bottom, and the heights are all staying the same. I'm going to measure a wheelbarrow width. That is 67. My gut feeling is 80. 80.9. It's getting too dark to check for square, so we'll deal with this tomorrow. Let's move this to one side. We've got to get the damp-proof course down. Oh, I've got a light. I'm gonna put it on faster. I might run out. I'm sticking it down with grab adhesive. Right, we've changed to a manual gun. I think it's because it's quite cold outside. Anyway, it's definitely got easier and I'm running out. Right, let's get that down. Yeah, some of this will be on show, won't it? But we can put a piece of trim down actually for that. Anyway, if chickens don't like it, it can be Hans's dog kennel. Secretly, we've just been making a dog kennel. So the damp-proof course is all set in place. And last night I actually had a word with my dad about the gap that was down here with the frame. And he suggested to do what I'm going to do now. Using the offcuts, I've put 45-degree cuts on all the ends, so I can use those as a gusset to keep it square. So I'm going to leave that there. Got them, and then, wow, it was cold earlier. Now it's feeling very warm. And we're meant to have a storm over the next 2 days, so I've got to be quick with this. I'm going to offer this up again. I want to try and get this as flat to the wall as I can. So if you look at the spirit level here, while I've pushed it to the wall, it is slightly off. Anyway, I'm going to get Mr. TCD to hold that in place for now. I'm checking to see whether these are plumb, which they are not. And because it's no longer square, I need to now move these slightly over. I can just about manage this. And it's definitely pushed against the wall. So I've knocked that to the side. Right, I'm banging it in. To keep it square for now, I'm screwing these angled pieces in. So if you can see my original centerline pencil mark, that's how much I've had to move it over. I'm just looking there. Yay. So now I need to do exactly the same for this. So I've got to move it over and trim a bit off there. And why does my dog insist on being under my step ladder? It's not a step ladder, Mum. Yeah, can you just grab that, please? So now I've got to follow that line and saw it. Now last night this wasn't square, so I've had to get Mr. TCD to step on one end while I tease the other side and put an angled bracket there. And I'm going to move this in place, and the dog's in the way now. Come on. Come on, away. You're protecting me. Come on, oops. I didn't mean to push you. Come on, away. Come on, go see Daddy. That's it. Now I need to put this in situ. So while Mr. TCD has got those in place, we have noticed that it doesn't completely match up at the top. So when I pull this one down, it gets better. So I'm going to have to raise this a touch, just with a little packer, to just make sure that's right. Yeah, about that. Anyway, because it's a struggle with the tape measure, I'm going to try and offer that up. Huh. So I've got it against that brickwork, which actually will hit this one here. These are protruding. That's not, that is. And onwards. I've got the one that I'm going to cut down, resting on what is the closest offcut I could find. It's leaning on here, and I know it needs to be about there, so I'm just going to run my pencil like that, because even if it's slightly smaller, I'll probably need a bit of clearance for play here. So now I need to cut that down and do two of the same size. So I've now got my top and bottom pieces for the big panel. What I've done is measured the length, deducted 38mm times 2, which is those either end. Then I've took that measurement and divided it by 4, and that's given me even upright spacings. So now I need to pre-drill and screw the frame together. It fits. Oh, scarily, it fits. Does it look an eyesore? Oh, I want to see. So it's time to roll out the 16 gauge and try and fit it on the panels while they're laid down. Don't forget, this is really, really heavy. It's a 30-metre roll, 2 metres wide. Oh, and it matters that it's 1 inch by ½ an inch square. The bigger the square, the lighter it's going to be. We've made sure this is predator proof. If anyone's going to be eating our chickens, it's us. Oh my God, it's a 2-person job this. Oh. It's strong. Nope, it's stuck on something. Oh no, what's the roll on me? So we realised it was best to cut the mesh into more manageable pieces because it was so wavy and hard to keep square. Then I set about getting the panel square and screwing angled pieces in every corner. And then evenly offer up the mesh with what I thought was enough overhang. Hello, what's your name? What's your name? Oh, and you might be wondering why I didn't start along the edge. Well, we'd already done a little test and keeping it square was easier said than done, and it was so easy to go off track. It's doing me head in! What a difference compared to yesterday. We've had some very high winds and now the concrete driveway is covered in leaves. And you know full well that when we do put a roof on this thing with mesh, it's going to be covered in leaves. I know it's going to be really windy today. It's on the milder side at the moment. It was worse than this earlier. And it's been peeing it down on and off through the day. And yeah, I'm not happy with how the first one is going. Even though I overlapped it, it's still going off square. It's so hard to manipulate because it's really heavy. I'm contemplating whether to take the nails out and start again, because if it goes off track, misses the top, I don't really want to be cutting it down and then realigning it. Anyway, before I continue the larger panel, I thought I'd cut down smaller pieces for the panel that'll have the door, as it was by far the easiest to nail. It's so windy outside, I'm having to put you in the chicken coop to film me from afar because I'm not taking any chances on breaking this camera. So back to the mammoth one. Even though I'd overlapped it, I still found it was a close call whether I'd be able to nail along the bottom by the time I got to the end. So I decided to cut it here and realign it. And after nailing the rest, which at times was difficult to get the ripples out, I angle grinded off all the excess with a metal disc cutter. You know, I still don't know whether the mesh was square, but I do know that there was definitely some imperfections. With 16 gauge and a small square, it's been an absolute pig to do, because it's so difficult getting it taut, getting it square. You've got loads of ripples to potentially fight with. That massive one we did, I cut it in a section just so we could start again and straighten it out. But if you go and have a look, you can see we've had to put loads extra nails in there and it's not perfect. I'm hoping it looks better when we get it up. But this one, I'm starting in the centre and I'm going to try and work my way around. Although I feel very lucky that it's not rained as much as it was gonna. You might be wondering why I'm not using my Stanley stapler. It's still really hard to use and it does hurt my hand after a while. Well, we ran out of daylight hours last night to actually fit them. So now we can take our time, finesse things, and I'm going to pre-drill some holes, then we can offer it up, get it plumb and level, and then start mounting it with some masonry screws that don't require raw plugs. Right. Sure. Right, I'm going like that. First, I drill the sides with a 5mm masonry drill bit, then fix to the brickwork with concrete screws. And after checking to see the top was level, I work on drilling and screwing along the bottom to the breeze block base. Then once the angled brackets were removed, I could mount even more screws. And now for panel 2, but we found the block base wasn't at all level, so I had to start propping it up with packers. In fact, pretty much nothing was level. So because we've got an angle on here, I'm having to mount them towards the very back where they kiss, and then later I'm going to put a filler piece here. So a key thing we didn't realise was that the base isn't actually that level. So we've got those level, but we've had to put a packer under there. And we're going to have to put one here as well. So we're going to have to put more packers as we go here. So I'm going to pack it up now and mount it. That does mean I'll have a gap underneath that I'm just going to cover with trim. If in doubt, cover with trim. I found some treated timber. because I've had to raise it to get it level, I've put some exterior grade pieces of timber underneath, and I've gone for longer screws as well, 122 millimeters. Right, I think we're ready for the beast. Funny walk. Right, just a minute. Right, ready? Ugh. Whoa. That is flat. So I'm going to put some screws in down here first. But my angled bracket was again in the way of drilling, so I had to unscrew it, and the mesh was so strong that I thought it would keep everything square. Right, that's in for now. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do the door. And the first thing I've done is rip down a structural piece of timber straight in the middle. This is exactly the same stuff as that. I just didn't want a really bulky door for the sake of it. I'll put that to one side. So I'm basically doing the same design as I did for the chicken coop automatic door. Those structural pieces of timber, I've cut 2 pieces down, and if you look closely, I've got a 15mm clearance from my door and the door frame. So I'm going to go for a 7.5mm clearance all the way around so it's nice and even. So you can see they are stacked there. Then I offered up one of the longer pieces of structural timber, placed it on top of there, took the total height and deducted 20mm off it. So I've now got 2 pieces exactly the same length, and I just need to screw them all together to form a square rectangle. So I've got my braces cut. I know it's only a chicken pen, but I still don't want the door to sag. So I'm going to screw those in on an angle. My favourite job. So if you never watched my other chicken coop door, the brace going towards the bottom, downwards, outwards like that, the hinges need to be on this side. So I've got an idea. Let's say it goes there. What the f is wrong with this? It's not square, is it? Stop it for a sec. So I double checked again, the door was definitely square, but the panel no longer was. Anyway, we'll talk about this later. My idea is it opens outwards, we mesh the back, but it's not perfect. I'm worried. But right now, with it turning dark soon, we had to nail the mesh on the back as quickly as we could. Right, let's get these hinges on. So it was bad news. No matter how much we tried to get the door frame panel square again, it was now about 20mm or something out of square for some reason. So I took the quick decision to painstakingly remove most of the staples, and I found the best tool for this was a giant oval nail and a hammer, so I could pry them off without doing too much damage. Now at this point, my microphone refused to connect, so apologies, but expect lots of finger pointing. To get it square, I added 2 screws along the top or bottom piece to a large and heavy sheet of material. This is OSB. Or you can get someone to stand on it if they're around. Then measure each diagonal point, and if the measurements are the same, you're okay. But say if you've got 20mm difference, you need to halve that by pushing the frame until you get it right. So I push it while I'm holding the tape measure in place so I can physically see it getting bigger or smaller. And once I got it even, I screwed the other 2 sides down to keep it square. But this time when I added the angle brackets, I decided to keep them there. I didn't want to take any chances and decided to nail the mesh back once I was happy overall. So after unscrewing the frame from the sheet of OSB, me and Mr. TCD spent even more time putting the frame back, getting it plumb and level, so I could finally hang the door. I think that's all right. So I've managed to get the door on, but even though I've squared this frame, something is knocking it out of square slightly. And either it's this or it's that panel when we screwed it together. So instead of mucking about, I'm happy with this. I've tried to get the clearance as even as I can around it. You can see a fraction out at the top, but I've got it even down here and as even as I can there. And I use spacers to help me. So now I'm putting a bolt on, then I'll put a stop lat on. I'm putting a bolt on first because it can help me work out where to put the stop lat on the back. And I've decided to use my own screws because the ones that came with it, I need a flat screwdriver. I can't find one and I hate them, so I'm going for this. Right, I'm going like that. Because this is just 3 sides, it's not perfectly square and not a flat base. This has been more challenging than I expected. Oh yeah, handles. Hello, come on away. We're also putting a carrying hook on it. That's okay, isn't it? I'm going to put it there. Right, we're doing stop lat yet. So the stop lats are done. I just need to touch them up with paint and that'll stop the door from swinging this way and damaging the hinges there. Anyway, I've still got a lot more to do, but I've run out of time. I want to put some trim along the bottom because I need to cover the packers. Obviously, touch-ups of this. I also need to rip some angular pieces here for both of these joins so it's stronger and then start on the roof. I think I've covered everything. Anyway, if you've got any tips and tricks of what I could have done better, I'd love to know. It definitely was a challenge. Oh, and I've also got to nail back the rest of these. I thought I'd just do it in situ and make sure this was all square first. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that one and I'll catch you in the next one. I best get cracking because I've got to finish this. See ya.